Michelle, why is my name on the payment schedule? I was standing inside Longhorn Motors on Elm Street in Denton. My brother's new SUV sat 20 feet away with a huge red bow on it. Austin had one arm resting on the hood while our relatives took pictures. My mother was adjusting his graduation stole for the third time. My father was telling everyone the vehicle was an investment in Austin's future. Nobody was looking at me. Michelle Kelly, the finance manager, lowered her voice. "Let's talk in my office." Before I could follow her, my mother stepped between us. "Alyssa, please don't start something today." I looked down at the paper again. The scheduled monthly payment was $742. The buyer listed at the top was Alyssa Lawson. Me, not Austin, not my parents. My name is Alyssa Lawson, and I'm 32 years old. If you've ever been treated like the reliable child until reliability became a bill, I know that feeling. Please like this video and subscribe. To explain how I ended up holding my brother's payment schedule at his graduation reception, I need to go back 9 days. I work as a payroll analyst. It's not exciting, but I'm good at it. I notice when totals don't match. I notice when a deduction starts on the wrong date. I notice when someone changes one cell in a spreadsheet and hopes nobody checks the rest. That probably made me the worst person in my family to deceive with paperwork. It also made me the easiest person to pressure into signing it. My mother called me on a Wednesday afternoon while I was reviewing payroll adjustments. I saw her name on my phone and let it ring twice before answering. "Hey, Mom. Alyssa, are you busy?" "I'm working. I know. I just need one little favor." That phrase had followed me through my entire adult life. A little favor meant paying the electric bill at the Lawson house because the catering business had a slow month. It meant covering a refrigerator repair and waiting half a year to be repaid. It meant driving across Denton when one of their catering vans wouldn't start. It meant fixing invoices because my mother had promised a client a discount she forgot to enter. Since I reached adulthood in 2012, I had been the person my parents called when something went wrong. Austin reached adulthood 4 years later. Somehow, that only gave me more things to fix. "What happened?" I asked. "Nothing happened." "This is something good." I leaned back in my chair. "What is it?" "Your brother found a vehicle." That answer didn't fit the question. Austin had just completed his graduate business program. He was 28 and had been talking for months about needing a better car. His old compact had stopped running the previous fall. Since then, he had borrowed our father's aging pickup whenever he needed to go somewhere. He hated that truck. The air conditioning took several minutes to cool. The driver's window made a grinding sound. There was a faded magnetic sign for Lawson Family Catering on the passenger door. Austin said it didn't match where his career was going. "What kind of vehicle?" I asked. "A luxury SUV. It's beautiful, Alyssa. Black interior, all the safety features. Your father drove it and he said it handles wonderfully. Are you buying Austin an SUV? It's his graduation gift. With what money?" My mother went quiet. There was the real phone call. "Alyssa, don't make this unpleasant." I asked a question. "Your father and I can handle the payments. The dealership is just having trouble getting the financing placed. Then pick a cheaper vehicle." That's not the issue. It was exactly the issue. But my mother never liked direct answers when they threatened something she had already promised Austin. She lowered her voice. "He needs to make a certain impression now. He'll be interviewing. He'll be meeting people. You know how much appearances matter in business. I work in payroll, Mom. People arrive in all kinds of cars. That's different. It was always different when Austin wanted something. What favor are you asking? We need you to come down to Longhorn Motors after work, just to help with the financing. What does help mean? Your father can explain it better." "No, you called me. What do you need me to sign?" Another pause. "We need your name on the purchase for a short time." I stared at my computer screen. Behind the open payroll file, I had an apartment listing saved. It was a 2-bedroom place near my office with covered parking and a small balcony. I had been preparing to apply that weekend. How short? Austin will refinance as soon as he starts his new job. He doesn't have a job yet. He has interviews. So there's no date. You're turning this into something it isn't. What is it then? A family helping one another. I closed the apartment listing. Did Austin ask you to call me? He's at the dealership with your father. That was an answer without being one. I'll speak to them tonight. My mother exhaled sharply. They need to finish the paperwork today. Why? Because someone else was asking about the SUV. Then let them buy it. Alyssa. She said my name in the same tone she used when a catering employee forgot a tray. I have to go, I said. You're really going to make your brother lose his graduation gift? I didn't answer that. I ended the call and set my phone face down. For 6 minutes, I went back to work. Then Austin texted me a picture. He was standing beside a dark gray SUV outside Longhorn Motors. He wore sunglasses and had one hand on the roof. My father stood beside him, smiling like the sale was already complete. Austin wrote, "Mom said, you're coming. Thank you." Seriously. I hadn't said I was coming. I called him. He answered immediately. "Hey, Alyssa, Mom says you need me to buy that SUV. No, you're not buying it. Then whose name goes on the paperwork? There are a couple ways they can structure it. Whose name?" He sighed. "Yours at first. That means I'm buying it. It means you're helping us get through the approval. Who's making the down payment? Dad already handled that. How much? I don't know. You're standing at the dealership. Why does the exact amount matter if they're paying everything? Because you're asking me to put my name on it. I didn't ask you. Mom did." That sentence told me more than he intended. You knew she was calling. Obviously. And you let her tell me this was one little favor. What do you want me to say? I need a car. You want that car. I'm trying to build a career. Pulling up in Dad's catering truck isn't exactly ideal. Then get something you qualify for. His voice changed. You know my credit got messed up. Austin said his credit had gotten messed up the way people said their luggage had gotten lost. No person was responsible. It had simply happened to him. He had missed payments on 2 credit cards. He had also stopped paying a personal loan because he said the interest rate was unfair. Our parents covered the collection balance after he told them it was preventing him from renting a better apartment. That had been 8 months earlier. When will you refinance? I asked. As soon as I'm working. What if that takes 6 months? It won't. What if it does? Mom and Dad make the payments. You're not out anything. My phone buzzed against my ear. My mother was calling again. I have another call, I said. Alyssa, wait. What? He softened his voice. I know I don't say it enough, but I'd really appreciate this. For 1 second, he sounded like the brother I remembered from before every conversation became a request. Then he added, Mom already invited everyone to see it at the reception. I closed my eyes. The graduation reception was supposed to be at my parents' house that Saturday. My mother had been planning it for weeks. She had ordered printed napkins and arranged for 2 people from the catering business to work the food tables. Now she had apparently included a vehicle she didn't own. I haven't agreed, I said. I know, but it'll be fine. You just said she already invited people to see it. She's excited. That doesn't make it mine to solve. We're not doing this again. Doing what? Making everything a financial lecture. I almost laughed. You called the payroll analyst because you need her credit. See that tone. My mother's second call stopped. A message appeared immediately. Your father says the dealership closes at 7. It was a little after 5. I should have gone home. Instead, I saved my work, shut down my computer, and drove to Longhorn Motors. That decision bothered me later, but I understand why I made it. My parents had trained me through repetition. Every emergency arrived already in motion. Someone had made a promise. Someone was waiting. Something would be lost if I didn't act immediately. By the time I arrived, the SUV was parked outside the showroom doors. Austin had already moved his gym bag into the back. My father met me near the reception desk. Thank you for coming. I'm here to ask questions. Of course. Mom said you can make the payments. We can, with catering income. He pressed his lips together. Your mother and I aren't asking you for money. You're asking for my credit. Temporarily. Why didn't you qualify? The business had a difficult quarter. On paper, it looks worse than it is. And Austin? You know his situation. Yes, I do. My father glanced toward Austin, who was sitting inside the SUV adjusting the mirrors. This is important to him. My apartment is important to me. He looked back at me. What apartment? I'm applying for one. Since when? I've been looking for months. You already have an apartment. I want one with a second room so I can work from home. He nodded slowly, but I could tell he was calculating around it. This won't interfere. You don't know that. Michelle said it should only be on your credit briefly. Should? Before he could answer, a woman in a navy blazer walked toward us. She introduced herself as Michelle Kelly. She was 45 with short brown hair and silver-framed glasses. She carried a folder against her chest. You must be Alyssa, she said. I'm the person they called. Something in her expression shifted. It wasn't surprise exactly, more like confirmation. Why don't we sit down, she said. Her office had a glass wall facing the showroom. Austin and my father sat across from me. Michelle took the chair behind her desk. Here's where things stand, she said. We don't have final lender funding yet. I looked at my father. You told me it was approved. It's approved in principle, he said. Michelle kept speaking. We can do a conditional delivery while we complete lender assignment. Alyssa would be the named buyer. Your parents have indicated they'll handle the scheduled installments, and Austin intends to refinance. None of that removes me from the contract, I said. No, Michelle replied. Not unless he refinances. My father shifted in his chair. But the dealership expects the lender to fund it. We expect to complete the assignment, Michelle said carefully. I can't promise a lender's final action. Austin leaned forward. But this is standard, right? Conditional delivery is common. He looked at me as though that settled everything. Michelle opened the folder. The retail installment packet sat on top. Beneath it was another form with the words, Conditional Delivery Addendum, printed in bold. She tapped the lower page. This covers the period before funding. I'll retain the original with the deal file. Can I read it? I asked. Absolutely. My mother called while I was halfway through the first page. I declined the call. Then she called my father. He answered on speaker without asking. Is she signing? My mother said. We're reviewing it. Alyssa, sweetheart, we would never leave you responsible for this. I kept reading. The form was written in plain enough English, but everyone around me was talking. Austin asked Michelle about the navigation package. My father told my mother we would be done soon. A salesman came in to ask which key Austin wanted on his ring. Both keys were placed on the desk. One had a plain black tag. The other had a small Longhorn Motors tag with the stock number. I pointed to the installment amount. $742 every month? My father nodded. We can manage it. For how long? Until Austin refinances. That still isn't a date. My mother's voice came through the phone. Why are you determined to make this hard? I looked at Michelle. When does the lender have to fund? We're working under a Monday deadline, 5 in the afternoon, and if something changes before then, she touched the addendum. This form governs the conditional period. My father turned the page back toward himself. Nothing is going to change. I wish I could tell you I stood up and left. I didn't. I let years of being called difficult whenever I asked a direct question do their work. I let my father's certainty stand in for an answer. I let Austin's graduation become more important than my apartment. I signed the purchase papers. Then I signed the addendum where Michelle indicated. She took the original form and placed it inside a pale blue dealership folder. I keep this in the deal file until funding is complete, she said. That was the ordinary little detail none of us paid attention to. Michelle gave me copies of most of the packet. My father took one SUV key from the desk. Austin grabbed the other. He was smiling before the ink dried. Outside, my mother had arrived with a ribbon from the catering business. It was too small for the hood, so she tied it around the driver's side mirror. Stand beside him, she told me. Let me get a picture of both of you. I'm tired, Mom. One picture. Austin put his arm around my shoulders. "Thanks, sis," he said. My mother took several photos. In every one, Austin faced the camera. I was looking down at the folder in my hands. He drove the SUV to the Lawson house. My parents followed in their catering van. I stayed in the dealership parking lot. Before leaving, I opened my copy of the packet again. The retail installment contract was there. The price disclosures were there. The page Michelle had retained wasn't. I walked back inside and found her near the reception desk. "Michelle, can you write down exactly what's still pending?" She looked at me for a moment, then took one of her business cards. On the back, she wrote, "Lender assignment and funding due by 5 p.m. Monday." She initialed it and handed it to me. It wasn't much, but it was the first thing about that transaction I had asked for and received without my family answering for me. I put the card in my wallet, separate from the packet. Then I drove home without joining them for dinner. At my apartment, I set the dealership packet on the kitchen counter and made scrambled eggs for dinner. I wasn't hungry, but I needed something ordinary to do. My mother sent 6 pictures from the dealership. In the first one, Austin stood beside the SUV. In the second, he was sitting behind the wheel. The last picture showed my parents on either side of him, all 3 smiling. I was in none of them. That shouldn't have surprised me. My mother had taken pictures while I was there, but apparently those weren't the ones she wanted to share. Her message underneath said, "Look how happy he is. You did a wonderful thing." I read it twice. Then I typed, "Please send me the payment plan you and Dad agreed on." She replied with a heart. I waited. Nothing else came. I called my father. He didn't answer. Austin did, but only because I called twice. "What's up?" he asked. I could hear music behind him. "Are you driving?" "No, I'm at home." "Who's home?" "Mom and Dad's." "Where's the SUV?" "In the driveway." "Have you added it to an insurance policy?" "Dad's handling all that." "Did you ask him?" "He said he would." "What happens if you drive it tonight?" He made an irritated sound. "I'm not taking it anywhere tonight. You need to know whether you're insured before you drive it. I understand how cars work. Then tell me which policy covers it." There was a pause. "Why are you doing this right now?" "Because my name is on the purchase, and Mom and Dad are handling it. They haven't even sent me a payment plan." "A payment plan for what?" "For the $742 due every month. You know they're paying it. That isn't a plan." "Alyssa, I'm trying to enjoy one night." I looked at the dealership packet on my counter. "Fine. Don't drive it until insurance is confirmed, okay? I need you to actually agree." I said, "Okay." The call ended. 5 minutes later, my father texted me a photograph of an insurance card. The SUV had been added to their business policy for the conditional period. Under the picture, he wrote, "Covered. You can relax." I saved the image. Then I put my phone down and stared at those last 3 words. "You can relax." My father used that sentence whenever he wanted the questions to stop. He had said it after borrowing money from me to replace a commercial mixer. He had said it when my mother used my credit card to reserve tables for an outdoor event. He had said it when Austin took my old sedan for one weekend and kept it for nearly a month. The problem was never that I refused to help. The problem was that I wanted to know what happened after I did. The next morning, my mother called before I reached the office. "Can you come by after work?" "For what?" "I need help with the vendor totals for the reception." I thought everything was arranged. It is. I just want another set of eyes. That meant something didn't balance. "Send me the spreadsheet. I'd rather show you here." "Why?" "Because your brother wants you to see the SUV in daylight." "I saw it yesterday." "You were tense yesterday." "I was reading a contract." She went silent. Then she said, "You always have to make a nice moment sound like an audit." I pulled into my office parking lot and turned off the engine. "Did you and Dad decide how you're paying the monthly installments?" "We own a business, Alyssa. That wasn't my question. We'll pay them the same way we pay anything else." "From which account?" "You don't ask us which account pays the water bill. The water bill isn't in my name." She sighed. "Come over after work. Your father will be there." I should have said no. Instead, I told her I would come by at 6. All day, I kept thinking about why I had agreed. It wasn't because I believed the vendor totals required my presence. It wasn't even because I trusted my father to explain the payments. I went because my mother had said they wanted me there. That was still enough to move me. The Lawson house was an older brick place a few streets from Elm Street. My parents had lived there for most of my life. The catering business operated from a converted garage in the back, with extra refrigerators, steel shelving, and a long prep table my father had built. When I pulled into the driveway, the SUV was parked closest to the front door. My mother's car was on the street. My father's pickup was pushed to the far side, partly on the grass. Austin came outside while I was still getting my bag from the passenger seat. "Move your car for a second," he said. "Why?" "I want to back out. Are you insured?" "Yes." "Dad showed you." He showed me the business policy. "That's the insurance. I'm asking whether you're listed to drive it." He held up both hands. "Here we go. It's a simple question." He talked to the agent. "Were you there?" "No." "Then ask him." Austin leaned against my car. "I'm 28 years old. That's why you should be able to make this phone call yourself." His face tightened. "You really resent this, don't you?" "I resent being responsible for something nobody will explain." "No, you resent that they wanted to do something big for me." I shut the passenger door. "They're not doing it. I'm the named buyer. They're making the payments. So everyone keeps saying." He stepped away from my car. "You could just be happy for me." That was the part I had trouble answering. I did want to be happy for him. I had watched him finish his program while working part-time and borrowing our father's truck. I knew he had put in real work, but he wanted me to celebrate the result while pretending I wasn't carrying the risk. My father opened the front door. "Are you two coming inside?" Austin pointed at me. "She won't move her car." "Why do you need the SUV?" my father asked him. "I'm meeting some people from my program. Take the truck." Austin laughed like he thought our father was joking. My father didn't laugh. "The dealership hasn't finished everything," he said. "Leave the SUV here tonight." Austin looked from him to me. "You already gave me the keys. It's one night. I told them I'd pick them up." "Take the truck," my father repeated. Austin went inside without answering. That was the first useful answer anyone had given me since the dealership. My father knew the transaction wasn't finished. He also knew enough to limit Austin's driving, even though he kept telling me there was nothing to worry about. I moved my car anyway. Inside, the dining table was covered with catering lists, unopened decorations, and 2 boxes of printed napkins. My mother pointed toward her laptop. "The totals are off by $260. I sat down and opened the spreadsheet. She had entered one invoice twice. I found it in less than a minute. "There," I said. "You duplicated the beverage deposit." She looked over my shoulder. "Oh, good. You could have emailed this. I wanted to see you." My mother said things like that when she knew she had pushed too far. It was close enough to affection that I usually accepted it. She put a glass of iced tea beside me. "We're having brisket, roasted potatoes, salad, and the little peach cobblers Austin likes. How many people are coming?" "About 30. "To the house?" "Yes. We'll set tables in the backyard. What happens if it rains?" "It won't." I looked through the window. The sky was gray and the weather report had shown storms for Saturday. "Do you have a backup? We can use the garage." "The catering garage. We'll clean it." I looked at the prep table covered in equipment. "When?" She rubbed her forehead. "We have time." My father came in carrying a folder from the business office. "Here's what you wanted," he said. He placed 3 bank statements on the table. He had circled deposits from recent catering jobs. "We have enough coming in," he said. "When?" 2 clients owe us balances next week. The first scheduled payment won't be next week." "No." "Then why are you showing me this? Because you keep acting like we can't afford $742. I looked at the statements. A large wedding balance was due in 3 weeks. A corporate lunch payment was expected at the end of the month. Neither amount was in the account yet. How much is available now? That's not the point. It is to me. My mother started gathering napkin boxes. Your father showed you the money. He showed me invoices people haven't paid. They always pay. Eventually. My father sat across from me. We've had a business for more than 20 years, and you called me when the freezer compressor failed in March. We paid you back 5 months later. We paid you back. That was how every discussion worked. If repayment happened eventually, the months in between disappeared. I opened my banking app. In the previous 12 months, I had sent my parents money 9 times. Some were loans, some were expenses I had covered directly. There was the freezer repair, a van tire, a utility bill, and the deposit for my mother's anniversary catering order. I had been repaid for most of it. That wasn't the whole truth. While I waited, my savings had stayed low. I delayed replacing my laptop. I skipped a trip with friends. I renewed my current apartment because I didn't want to pay moving expenses while my parents still owed me. No one had forced me to do those things. They had asked, and I had said yes. My father tapped the statement. You know we don't leave you hanging. I turned my phone around and showed him the transfers. What would you call this? His eyes moved down the screen. That freezer was an emergency. And the van tire? We had a delivery. The utility bill? January was slow. The anniversary deposit. My mother stopped moving the napkin boxes. That was for a good client. I looked at her. You told me your card had been compromised. It had. You didn't tell me the order was for the business. What difference did it make? We returned the money. 3 months later. She set the box down. I don't know what you want from us. I want you to stop making commitments with my money before you ask me. This isn't your money. The loan is in my name. My father's voice became quieter. Watch how you speak to your mother. I closed the banking app. That sentence still worked on me. I hated that it did. I was an adult woman sitting at a table with proof in my hand, and one change in my father's voice made me feel rude for bringing it up. My mother sat beside him. We've always been there for you. I waited for an example. She gave me one. When you started college, we let you stay here without paying rent. I was commuting to school. And we supported that. I worked at the catering business every weekend. You were a part of the family. We didn't keep score. I almost pointed at the bank statements. Instead, I asked, why is it called support when you help me, but keeping score when I ask what I've paid? Neither of them answered. Austin came into the dining room holding the black key. Dad, I need the truck key. My father took it from his pocket. Austin placed the SUV key on the table and picked up the truck key. He looked at me before leaving. Happy now? No, could have fooled me. The front door shut behind him. My mother stood and carried the iced tea glasses to the kitchen. He's embarrassed. So am I. About what? I looked at her. She honestly seemed confused. That hurt more than if she had laughed. My father gathered the business statements. We'll put something in writing if that makes you feel better. It would. You don't trust us? I asked for a payment plan last night. We were celebrating. And this morning, we were working. And now. He held the folder against his chest. I said, we'll do it. When? Tomorrow. I wrote the date on the back of Michelle's business card. Then I added, payment plan promised by Jonathan. My father watched me. Is that necessary? Yes. For once, I didn't soften it. I put the card back in my wallet, closed the catering spreadsheet, and emailed my mother the corrected copy. Then I removed my saved card from the vendor account she had left open on her laptop. What are you doing? She asked. Taking my card off. We only use that for deposits. You can add your own. Ours has a lower limit. Then order within the limit. My hands were shaking, but I finished removing it. The website confirmed the change. It was one small piece of access they no longer had. I packed my laptop while my parents stood across the room, silent. For the first time, I could see that my role in the family had never depended only on what they demanded. It also depended on how quickly I volunteered. I left before my mother could turn that silence into another request. Halfway home, my phone rang through the car speakers. I let it go to voicemail. She called again before I reached the next traffic light. On the third call, I answered. What? Did you remove your card from the vendor account? I did it while you watched. The rental company is trying to process the remaining balance. Then use your card. We need to pay tonight to keep the tables. You told me the reception was already arranged. It is arranged. This is the final balance. Were you planning to put it on my card? It was already saved. That doesn't answer me. My mother was quiet for a second. It would have been easier. For who? We're trying to put together a celebration for your brother, and you were going to charge my card without asking. We would have paid you back. Did Dad know? He knows we need the tables. Did he know you planned to use my card? She didn't answer. That was enough. How much is it? I asked. $480. I gripped the steering wheel. You were going to add almost $500 to my card the day after putting a vehicle in my name. Don't say it like that. How should I say it? We're not taking anything from you. You were trying to charge my card for a family event. That doesn't make it your card. Her voice hardened. You've never objected before. She was right. Not about the card belonging to her. About me not objecting. When she needed a deposit, I paid it. When my father promised repayment after an event, I waited. If I asked questions, they acted wounded until I apologized for my tone. I had helped build the pattern I was angry about. I'm objecting now, I said. So Austin won't have enough seating because you've suddenly decided to make a point? You own a catering business. Use the chairs you already have. They don't match. Then they don't match. She hung up. I drove the rest of the way without music. At home, I opened my laptop and changed the passwords on 2 other accounts I had shared with my mother. One was an office supply website she used for catering invoices. The other was a wholesale food club account under my membership. I removed my payment information from both. Then I checked my credit report. The dealership inquiry was already there. It had dropped my score by a few points, not enough to ruin anything, but enough to make the SUV real in a way the dealership pictures hadn't. I opened the apartment listing I had saved. The unit was still available. I clicked the application button and reached the financial section. It asked whether I had taken on any new debt that hadn't yet appeared on my credit report. My hand stayed on the mouse. I could answer honestly and probably delay the application. Or I could pretend the dealership transaction didn't count yet and hope everything worked out. I closed the page. Then I pulled the retail installment packet from my bag. The scheduled payment was $742. The first due date was printed several weeks away. Austin wasn't named as a buyer or co-buyer anywhere. My parents weren't named anywhere either. Their promises existed in phone calls and conversations. The papers only knew me. I took out Michelle's business card and called the number. The dealership was still open. A receptionist transferred me to finance, but Michelle didn't answer. I left a message. This is Alyssa Lawson. I signed the conditional paperwork yesterday. I need confirmation of the funding status, and I need a complete copy of anything with my signature. Please call me before any final assignment. I almost added that my family was paying. I didn't. That arrangement had nothing to do with the dealership unless it appeared on paper. The next morning, I woke to a message from my father. Your mother is upset. Call her. There was no payment plan attached. I replied in a group message with both my parents and Austin. I need a written schedule showing who will make each vehicle payment and when Austin will apply to refinance. Please send it by noon. Austin responded first. Are you serious? Yes. My mother wrote, can we please get through the reception without more drama? I typed, the payment plan has nothing to do with the reception. She answered, everything has to be on your schedule. My father didn't respond. At 10, Austin called. I don't know what kind of schedule you want. A simple one. Who makes the first payment? Mom and Dad. From which account? Their account. Which one? He gave a short laugh. You want the account number now? No. I want to know whether it's personal or business money. Why does that matter? Because they showed me business income that hasn't arrived. They have money coming in. That isn't the same as money available. You always do this. Do what? Keep asking questions until people give up. I looked at the time. Will you apply to refinance after funding? I told you I would. When? When I have a job. That could take months. I have a second interview next week. With which company? I'm not discussing that if you're going to be negative. Have they made an offer? No. Then there's no refinance date. I'm not buying a cheaper car just because you don't believe in me. I hadn't suggested a cheaper car during that call. He had been thinking about it anyway. What did the dealership offer you before I came in? I asked. What do you mean? Did they show you other vehicles? They show everybody options. What options? Used stuff. What kind of used stuff? I don't remember. You remember every feature in the SUV. He went quiet. Then he said, Dad wanted me to look at a sedan. There it was. How much? I don't know. Could you qualify for it? Why are you interrogating me? Could you qualify for it? Not at a good rate. But there was financing available? I wasn't paying some ridiculous rate for an old car. You're not paying this rate either. Mom and Dad are. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. So the dealership offered something you could finance, and you chose the SUV that required me. It wasn't a real option. It was a car you could buy without my credit. It was 5 years old. That doesn't make it imaginary. He lowered his voice. You drive a 5-year-old sedan because you don't care what people think. I looked through my apartment window at my car in the parking lot. It was clean, paid off, and reliable. I care what lenders think. That's exactly what I mean. Everything with you is safe and practical. Those are useful qualities when asking someone to take your loan. It isn't my loan. The words came out so quickly that neither of us spoke for a moment. What did you say? I asked. You know what I mean. No, say it again. The loan is in your name. Mom and Dad are paying. I'm driving the car. Everybody has a part. His part was receiving the vehicle. My parents' part was promising. My part was being legally responsible. You had an option in your own name, I said. It wasn't acceptable. To you, yes, to me. It's my car. No, Austin, that's the problem. You're calling it your car while telling me the loan is mine. He hung up. I took a screenshot of the call time and wrote down what he had said. I didn't know yet what I would need the notes for. I only knew conversations in my family had a way of changing afterward. By noon, nobody had sent a payment schedule. At 12:15, my mother sent a picture of mismatched folding chairs in the backyard. Hope you're satisfied. I didn't answer. The chairs looked fine. The small refusal had worked. My parents had covered the seating without using my card. Nothing had collapsed. The reception still had tables and chairs. The only thing missing was the matching set my mother wanted. At 1, my father finally sent a document. It wasn't a payment plan. It was a 1-page note he had typed. Deborah and Jonathan Lawson agree to make payments associated with the vehicle used by Austin Lawson until refinancing can be arranged. There were no payment dates. There was no account listed. There was no deadline for Austin. Neither parent had signed it. I replied, please add the amount, payment dates, source account, refinance deadline, and signatures. My father called immediately. You asked for something in writing. I asked for a schedule. This says we're paying. It doesn't say when. The bill tells us when. The bill comes to me. Then send it to us. What happens if you don't have the money that month? We will. You couldn't cover the table rental last night. That was a timing issue. The vehicle payment can become a timing issue too. His breathing changed. You are treating your family like strangers. I wouldn't sign this loan for a stranger. That's a terrible thing to say. It's true. Your mother and I raised you. We fed you, housed you, put clothes on you. I stood and walked to the kitchen window. That was your responsibility. So now nothing we did matters? That's not what I said. You've changed, Alyssa. I watched someone carry groceries across the parking lot. I removed my card from 3 accounts. That's what this is about? No, that's what I did after I realized you all expected access. Nobody expects access. Mom tried to charge a rental balance without asking. She thought she had permission. Why? Because you've helped before. There it was again. My past agreement had become permanent permission. Send me a real payment schedule, I said. I have work to do. So do I. He ended the call. A few minutes later, Michelle returned my message. I can confirm the lender assignment hasn't funded, she said. We're still working on final verification. What verification? Income and deal terms. The lender may request updated information. From me? Possibly. If they do, we'll contact you. Can anything be changed without my signature? Not the amount you agreed to. A lender may require revised terms, but we would discuss those with you. Is Austin responsible for any part of this paperwork? Not under the contract you signed. What about my parents? Any private payment agreement between family members is separate from the dealership transaction. I looked at my father's unsigned note on the screen. So if they stop paying, the dealership looks to me. If the sale is funded under your contract, you're the named buyer. And it hasn't funded yet. That's correct. Can you send me a complete copy of the conditional paperwork? I can send what's in the electronic packet. The original addendum remains in the deal file until the funding process is completed. She sounded busy, but not evasive. When will you know? Monday, no later than 5. We should know sooner. That gave me useful information and a deadline I hadn't understood before. The obligation wasn't settled. It was moving towards settlement. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I opened the family group message. Austin, return the SUV to the dealership or begin financing a vehicle you can qualify for. Mom and Dad, the unsigned note isn't enough. I need a real plan by tonight. My mother replied, not before his reception. Austin wrote, I'm not returning anything. My father added, we'll discuss this in person. I saved all 3 messages. Then I opened the apartment application again and answered the new debt question honestly. The confirmation page warned that a new credit obligation could delay approval. I submitted it anyway. An automated email arrived a minute later. Your application requires additional financial review. I read that sentence at my kitchen table while rain struck the windows. The storm my mother said wouldn't happen had arrived early Saturday morning. She called at 7:12. We need to move everything inside. I'm sorry the weather turned. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? We need help clearing the garage. I looked at my coffee. What time are the guests coming? 4. Then Austin can clear it. He can't move the equipment alone. Dad can help. Your father needs to pick up the brisket. Then Austin can start while he's gone. She exhaled into the phone. You know where everything belongs. So do you. Alyssa, this isn't the day for whatever point you're making. I'm not making a point. I'm not available. What are you doing? Reviewing my apartment application. At 7 in the morning? Yes. She waited for me to change my answer. I didn't. Finally, she said, your brother only graduates once. He already graduated. You know what I mean. Ask him to clear the garage. She ended the call. My hands shook after I put down the phone. Saying no hadn't become easier just because I had done it once. I made toast and kept checking my phone. At 8, Austin sent a picture to the family group. He had moved the folding tables against one wall of the catering garage. Behind him, my father was stacking equipment on steel shelves. Austin wrote, we're handling it. I replied, good. My mother didn't respond. That small exchange settled something for me. They could function without me. They just preferred not to. At 9:30, an email arrived from the dealership's automated system. The subject line said, your scheduled payment information. I opened it. The amount was $742. The schedule listed 12 monthly due dates on the first page, followed by the remaining term in the attached packet. My name and apartment address appeared at the top. There was no reference to my parents' promise. Austin's name appeared only in a vehicle use note connected to the delivery information. I printed the schedule at the office center near my apartment. Then I drove to the Lawson house. I hadn't agreed to help with the garage. I went because I wanted everyone looking at the same paper. The rain had become heavier. Water ran along both sides of the driveway. The SUV sat close to the house under an oak tree, while my father's pickup remained partly on the grass. Austin opened the front door. "I thought you weren't available. I need 10 minutes. Mom's in the garage." I followed him through the kitchen. My parents had cleared enough space for 3 tables, but not 30 guests. Catering racks covered one wall. 2 refrigerators hummed near the back door. The concrete floor was damp where rain had blown inside. My father was dragging a box of serving trays away from the entrance. My mother looked at the printed pages in my hand. "What now?" "I got the payment schedule." She turned back to a stack of tablecloths. "We said we're paying it. I want to know how. Not today. The first payment is in my name today. It isn't due today. That's not the point." My father set down the box. "Let me see it." I handed him the pages. He read the first sheet, then passed it to my mother. She barely looked. "That's what we expected," she said. "What did you expect?" "The monthly amount." "Where will it come from?" "The business account." "There isn't enough in that account right now. We have events scheduled. What happens if a client pays late?" My father rubbed the back of his neck. "They won't. One already did last month." "That was different." "How?" "He disputed the head count, and you waited 3 weeks." My mother folded a tablecloth harder than necessary. "Why are we talking about an old invoice?" "Because you promised a payment without having the money available. We will have it by the due date. And if you don't?" Nobody answered. I looked at Austin. "What will you pay?" He was leaning against the refrigerator. "We already discussed this." "No. You said Mom and Dad would pay." "They will." "I'm asking what you'll contribute. I'm looking for work. You paid for dinner with your friends last night." His face changed. "That was graduation. How much did you spend? That's none of your business. The vehicle in my name is my business. I didn't spend $700. That wasn't my question." He looked toward our mother. She stepped in immediately. "Austin has worked hard. He's allowed to celebrate. I'm not saying he can't. It sounds like you're counting what he eats now." I turned back to him. "Will you contribute to the first payment?" "I don't have steady income. Then return the SUV and take the used financing option." "No." "Why?" "Because I'm not starting over with some basic car. You haven't started anything yet." My father said my name sharply. I looked at him. "What?" "This is his celebration. No, this is a financing problem. You've made your position clear. Then answer the question. If business money is late, who pays?" He stared at the schedule. My mother spoke without looking at me. "You could cover it for a few days." The garage seemed louder after that. Rain hit the metal vent above the prep area. One refrigerator motor clicked off and the other kept humming. "What did you say?" I asked. "If the timing didn't line up," she said, "you could make the payment and we would reimburse you. Was that always the plan? It's a backup." "Was I the backup when you signed me up for this?" "You signed yourself." My father looked at her. "Deborah." "No, she did." Nobody forced her hand. I waited for him to correct her. He didn't. I took the payment schedule back. "You told me I wouldn't pay anything." "And you won't," my father said. "Your mother is talking about an unlikely situation. She's talking about the exact situation that has happened with every business expense I've covered. We repaid you after I carried it. You had the money." The simplicity of that answer made me stop. My father wasn't denying the pattern. He believed my ability to pay made it reasonable. I folded the schedule once. "I won't cover one payment. Not for a day." My mother shook her head. "You are creating a crisis that doesn't exist. I'm defining what happens if it does." "And what happens?" Austin asked. "If Mom and Dad miss a payment, you return the SUV immediately. It's not yours to take. It's not yours on paper. It was given to me by people who couldn't buy it." He pushed away from the refrigerator. "You're enjoying this." "No, you always act like being responsible makes you better than everyone. I'm asking you to be responsible for the vehicle you're driving. I will be once I'm working. You chose it before you had income. Because I believed my family would support me. He put special weight on the word family. My mother nodded like he had finally said the important thing. "That's what this is about," she said. "We support each other." "No," I said. "I support everyone, and you call it family." My father looked toward the open garage door. "Lower your voice." I hadn't raised it. "I'm done paying incidental expenses," I said. "No deposits, repairs, utility gaps, supplies, or temporary advances. If my name stays on the SUV, that's the only risk I'm carrying." My mother stared at me. "You can't punish the business because you're angry at Austin. I'm protecting my own money. The business pays us. It maintains this house. It has helped both of you. The business is yours. It will belong to this family one day." I almost asked what that meant. Instead, I said, "I'm not financing it now for something that might happen later." My father handed me the unsigned note he had written. "Take this. I don't want it. It says we're responsible. It says you agree to make payments until refinancing can be arranged. That could mean anything. We gave you our word, and your actual plan still ends with me paying when cash is late." His face tightened. "That is not our plan. Mom just said it. She was trying to answer your worst-case question. She answered honestly." My mother looked away. That was the first substantial truth I had gotten from any of them. The backup arrangement wasn't an accident they might need later. It was part of how they believed the transaction worked. Austin received the SUV. My parents received time. I received the payment schedule and whatever gaps appeared underneath it. My father picked up the box of trays again. "We have guests coming." I looked around the garage. "You don't have room for them." "We know that," my mother said. "Then postpone." "You'd like that." "This isn't about what I like. It's raining. The yard is flooding, and you have electrical equipment next to an open door." My father looked outside. Water had reached the edge of the garage. He set the box down again. My mother said, "We can move the refrigerators." "To where?" She didn't answer. Austin checked the weather on his phone. "It's supposed to keep raining until tonight." My mother sat on one of the folding chairs. For the first time that morning, nobody looked at me to solve it. My father called the relatives who were traveling from outside Denton. Austin messaged his friends. My mother contacted the rental company and moved the tables to a later date instead of paying the balance that morning. They postponed the reception. No one blamed the storm aloud. At noon, I drove home with the payment schedule beside me. The apartment office had emailed again. They wanted an explanation of the dealership credit inquiry and an estimate of the new monthly obligation. I replied with the exact amount. 20 minutes later, they placed my application on hold until the financing status became clear. That was the first direct cost I couldn't dismiss as family tension. My parents' promise had reached into a decision they didn't even know I was ready to make. I forwarded the apartment email to the family group. Austin replied, "This is temporary." My mother wrote, "Maybe this isn't the right time for you to move." My father called instead of texting. "You already have a place to live." He said, "That's not your decision. I'm saying there's no emergency. There didn't have to be an emergency. I wanted to move. You can apply again after Austin refinances. When will that be?" "We've been over this." "Yes, that's the problem." He lowered his voice. "Your mother found another option for the reception." I waited. The dealership sometimes lets customers do a ceremonial delivery in the showroom. They have space near the SUV displays, and your mother can bring food from the business. When? Next Friday afternoon. Why Friday? They expect to be close to final funding by then. My grip tightened around the phone. Did Mom tell them I agreed to come? We're all coming. That wasn't my question. There may be some final verification for you to complete. Michelle can handle it while everyone's there. So this reception is also a financing appointment. It's convenient. For who? Alyssa, your brother lost his celebration today. The rain postponed it. Don't make him lose the vehicle, too. I looked at the apartment email again. My refusal had protected my card and forced my family to state their real plan. It had also shown them I might stop cooperating before the sale became final. Now they had a new reception, a room full of relatives, and a reason to place the remaining paperwork in front of me. The invitation arrived on Sunday morning. My mother had designed it on her phone. It showed a graduation cap above a picture of the SUV. Austin's graduation and new vehicle celebration, it said. Friday at 4 p.m., Longhorn Motors. Below that, in smaller letters, she had written, "Presented with love by Deborah and Jonathan Lawson." She sent it to the family group first. "Please check for mistakes before I send this to everyone." I replied, "Don't send it yet." She called within a minute. "What's wrong with it? You're presenting a vehicle you don't own. We're paying for it. You haven't made one payment, because one isn't due. The financing isn't complete. The dealership knows we're having the reception there. That doesn't make the SUV yours to give." She made a tired sound. "Do you want your name on the invitation?" "No." "Then what are we arguing about? I want you to stop describing a conditional vehicle as a completed gift. People don't need all the financial details. I'm not asking you to send them the contract. Good, because that would be embarrassing. For who? Austin." I looked at the invitation again. My parents' names were under the picture. Mine appeared nowhere. That should have made me feel relieved. Instead, it showed how they saw the arrangement. They were giving. Austin was receiving. I was paperwork. "Wait until funding is complete," I said. "The reception is Friday. Funding will be handled. You don't know that. Your father spoke with the dealership." "What did they tell him?" "That they're finishing the lender assignment." "That's what they told me too." "It isn't the same as funded." She went quiet. Then she said, "I'm sending the invitation." My phone started buzzing before we ended the call. Relatives responded with congratulations. One asked what color the SUV was. Another said Austin deserved something special after all his hard work. My mother sent 3 dealership photos. She didn't send the one with me beside him. I muted the group. Around noon, I opened a social media app and saw Austin's picture before I saw anything else. He had parked the SUV outside a restaurant near the town square. The caption said, "Next chapter starts now." In the picture, he was wearing a suit. A leather portfolio rested on the hood. I called him. He rejected the call. Then he texted, "Interview lunch. Can't talk." I wrote, "You said the interview was next week." "This is a networking meeting. Is this for the same company?" "No. Please stop putting miles on the SUV until financing is complete." He didn't answer. An hour later, he posted another picture from the driver's seat. I saved both. At first, I told myself I was documenting the mileage. That was partly true. The other truth was less flattering. I kept checking because I wanted to know whether he looked grateful. He looked pleased. He looked confident. He looked exactly like the person my parents wanted everyone to see. Nothing in those pictures showed the sister refreshing her apartment application because his vehicle had put her housing plans on hold. I drove to the Lawson house that afternoon. My father was in the garage checking oil in the catering van. My mother was inside making labels for food trays. The SUV wasn't there. "I need the second key," I told my father. He wiped his hands on a shop towel. "Austin has both. Why? He's driving it." "I know. Why does he have both keys? You want him to leave one where?" "With me." My father stared at me. "For what purpose?" "So I have access to the vehicle in my name. You're not taking it from him." I asked for a key. "That amounts to the same thing." "No, it gives me one key. He needs the spare." "Why?" "In case he loses the first one." I waited. He looked down at the van engine. That answer sounded ridiculous because it was ridiculous. Austin needed protection from losing a key. I didn't need protection from the entire debt. "Where is he staying tonight?" I asked. "Here. Not his apartment?" "He's been here because the SUV is safer in this driveway. Then he can leave the spare in the house." My father closed the hood of the van. "This is getting out of hand." "I agree." "I mean your behavior." "I know what you meant." He walked past me toward the kitchen. My mother looked up from the table when we entered. "What happened now?" "Alyssa wants Austin's key," my father said. "One key. He needs both." Why does everyone keep saying that? My mother set down her marker. Because it's his vehicle. The buyer doesn't have a key. You have your own car. That isn't an answer. She looked toward the front window as if Austin might arrive and settle it for her. Your brother is trying to prepare for interviews, she said. He can do that without 2 keys. He doesn't need you monitoring where he goes. I'm not asking to monitor him. You saved his pictures. My hand went still on the back of a chair. How do you know that? He told me. I saved them because he's driving a vehicle under conditional paperwork. He said you questioned him about a lunch. I asked because he told me his interview was next week. My mother shook her head. This is what I was afraid of. What? That you'd hold this over him. I'm asking for 1 key and a payment plan. You're collecting evidence against your own brother. The phrase was too large for what I had done, but it told me Austin had noticed. I pulled out a chair and sat. Did Dad give him the 2nd key? Yes. When? Thursday morning. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because we didn't think a key transfer required a family meeting. You thought the loan did. My father opened the refrigerator and took out a bottle of water. We needed your help with financing. We don't need permission for every detail after that. Every detail involving the SUV affects me. No, he said. The payments affect you if we don't make them. We will. Then sign a payment schedule. We are not turning this family into a business contract. You turned me into the buyer. My mother pushed the invitation drafts into a neat pile. We're going in circles. Where is the written plan Dad promised? He's been busy. He had time to arrange a showroom reception. That was my idea. Did you tell the dealership the financing isn't complete? They know their own business. What exactly did you ask them? I asked if we could bring food and have family there when Austin receives his final paperwork. Who said yes? The salesman checked with someone. They said we could use the display area if we keep the aisle clear. That was believable. My mother could make a catering setup fit almost anywhere, and the dealership got pictures of a happy graduate beside a new vehicle. Did you ask whether I had to sign anything? I said you would be there. That wasn't my question. She looked at my father. He drank from the water bottle. We were told there may be final verification, he said. What kind? Income, address, whatever they need. And if the terms change, they won't. You don't know that. Alyssa, stop. I stood. I'm going to the dealership tomorrow. Nobody answers questions about my file except me. My mother's face tightened. Why are you making us sound dishonest? I didn't say you were dishonest. You don't have to. I want direct information. You think we haven't been giving it to you? I looked at the unsigned note still sitting on the table. No. Austin arrived 10 minutes later. He parked the SUV carefully and spent several seconds checking his position between the driveway lines. When he came inside, he was still carrying the leather portfolio from his picture. I asked for the spare key. He laughed once. Absolutely not. Why? Because you'll take the car. Where? I don't know. Back to the dealership. Is that what you're worried about? I'm worried about you doing something dramatic. I looked at my parents. Neither of them defended me. Did you know I asked you to stop driving it today? My father looked at Austin. You didn't mention that. Because she can't tell me not to drive. The sale is still conditional, I said. Austin put the portfolio on the counter. Michelle said I could take delivery. That doesn't mean you should use it for every meeting before funding. I had one lunch. You put over 100 miles on it since Wednesday. He looked surprised. How do you know? The delivery mileage is in my packet. My father lowered his water bottle. How many miles are on it now? Austin hesitated. Not that many. Show me. He pulled the key from his pocket. For a moment, I thought he might hand it over. Instead, he walked outside with all of us behind him. The odometer showed almost 200 miles more than the delivery number. My father frowned. Where have you been? Just around Denton. That's not 200 miles, I said. I drove to Fort Worth yesterday. My mother looked at him. For what? A career event. You said you were meeting friends. Some of them were there. My father rubbed his jaw. You need to limit the driving until everything is final. Austin stared at him. So now she gets to control the mileage? I didn't say that. That's what this is. My mother stepped between them. Everybody needs to calm down. I stayed beside the driver's door. When are you refinancing? I asked Austin. When I'm established. That's different from when you start working. It means the same thing. No, it doesn't. He looked toward our parents. Dad said I shouldn't apply right away. My father's head came up. What? You said to wait until I had a few paychecks. That's standard, my father said. You promised me he would refinance promptly. He needs income history. How long? A few months. How many? We don't know yet. Austin folded his arms. I'm not refinancing into a bad rate just to get your name off faster. There was the inconsistency I had been trying to pin down. My parents had presented the arrangement as a short bridge. In private, they had already told Austin to wait until the loan suited him. I took a picture of the odometer. Austin saw me do it. You really are building a case. I'm keeping a record against us. For myself. I left without the key. On Monday morning, I went to Longhorn Motors before work. Michelle met me in her office. I need a note added to the file, I said. No information changes, verification, or revised terms can come through my parents or Austin. Contact me directly. She turned to her computer. That's reasonable. She entered the instruction and rotated the screen enough for me to see it. The note showed my phone number and email address. It required direct buyer confirmation before any updated information could be used. Can anyone remove that? I asked. Not without speaking to you. That was the first practical protection I had placed on the transaction itself. Michelle printed the account note and signed the bottom. Then she said, Your mother called this morning. What did she want? She asked whether your final verification could be ready during Friday's reception. What did you tell her? That I can only discuss the buyer's requirements with the buyer. Is there a final verification ready? Not yet. The lender is still reviewing. What are they reviewing? The overall assignment. I can't give you a final answer before they give one to us. I put the signed note in my packet. If the lender asks for different terms, I'm not agreeing in advance. I've documented that. I thanked her and went to work. Before lunch, my mother called. The dealership says they won't discuss anything with me. That's correct. Did you tell them not to? Yes, we're paying for the vehicle. You haven't paid anything. How are we supposed to coordinate the reception? You can coordinate the food. I'll coordinate my financial information. Her voice dropped. You are embarrassing your father and me. No one at the dealership knows anything except that I asked them to speak to the named buyer. They know you don't trust us. That isn't information I gave them. She hung up. A few minutes later, the family group came alive. My father wrote, We need to meet tonight. Austin added, She's trying to interfere with funding. I saved both messages. My deliberate move had worked. The remaining access now ran through me. It also told my family exactly where control had shifted, and they were no longer pretending it didn't matter. I didn't go to the meeting. At 6, my father called from the Lawson house. We're waiting. I didn't agree to come. You saw the message. That isn't an agreement. My mother spoke in the background. Put her on speaker. My father did. We need to settle this before Friday, she said. I agree. Austin needs to return the SUV or start financing something he can afford. Austin answered from somewhere farther away. I'm not taking it back. Then give me a refinance date. I don't have an offer yet. Then you don't have the income for this vehicle. I have options. Name one. My father interrupted. This is why we wanted to speak in person. The answers don't change because we're sitting at your table. This family doesn't handle serious matters by text and phone. I looked at my notes from the last few days. Most of their promises had been made by phone. That was where they sounded generous without committing to details. I asked for a written payment plan, I said. You sent an unsigned paragraph. It was a statement of our intention. I know. My mother's voice came closer to the phone. We are not going to sign some humiliating agreement with our own daughter. You asked me to sign a vehicle contract for your son, your brother. He's your son and my brother. Both things are true. You make him sound like a stranger. No, I'm being specific about who promised him the gift. Austin spoke again. You signed willingly. I signed after all three of you said I wouldn't pay, and you won't. Mom already admitted I was the backup payment plan. That isn't what she meant. My mother said, "Don't speak for me, Austin." For a few seconds, all I heard was movement around their kitchen. Then my father said, "Let's deal with facts. The lender is still reviewing. We expect funding. We will make the payments. Austin will refinance when it makes financial sense." That last part changed. It became more precise. "No, you told me promptly. Now you mean when the rate suits him. Would you rather he accept a bad rate? I'd rather he carry the cost of his own choice." My father lowered his voice. "You have more flexibility than he does. That's because I don't buy things I can't afford." "Alyssa," my mother said. "What? You don't need to insult him." I stated a fact. He completed a graduate business program. He is trying to establish himself. This vehicle helps him do that. My credit helps him do that. You have good credit. Using it to help your brother doesn't take it away from you. It already delayed my apartment. You have an apartment. There it was again. My needs only counted when they became emergencies. Wanting more space wasn't enough. Planning carefully wasn't enough. I had to be stranded, sick, or desperate before something mattered as much as Austin's preferences. "The unit may not stay available," I said. "Then another one will," my father replied. The same thing could be said about the SUV. No one answered that. My mother finally said, "You know you always have a home here." I looked around my apartment. My books were on my shelves. My clean dishes were drying beside my sink. A plant sat on the windowsill in a chipped blue pot. The Lawson house hadn't been my home for years. It was the place where my parents stored a version of me who came when called. "I'm not moving back," I said. "Nobody asked you to. Then don't offer the house as a replacement for something your decision cost me." "Our decision?" "Yes. You signed." My mother repeated those words more quickly each time. She had found the part of the truth that protected her. I had signed. Nothing erased that. My father asked, "Are you coming Friday?" "I haven't decided. You need to be there for final verification. If the dealership needs me, Michelle can contact me. It would mean a lot to your brother." Austin gave a short laugh. "She doesn't care." I waited for one of my parents to challenge him. Neither did. "I'll speak directly to the dealership," I said. Then I ended the call. The next morning, the apartment office emailed before I left for work. They couldn't keep the unit on hold while my financial review remained unresolved. Another qualified applicant was ready to sign. My application fee wasn't refundable, but I could transfer the application to another available unit within 30 days. There weren't any comparable units available. I called anyway. The leasing employee was polite. She explained the same thing the email had said. If I could show that the vehicle obligation had been removed, they could reconsider me for a future opening. "What if the sale hasn't funded yet?" I asked. "The credit inquiry and proposed payment still have to be included in our review, so I'm being evaluated for a debt that isn't final. We have to evaluate the information available today." I thanked her and hung up. At lunch, I drove past the apartment building. Someone was standing on the balcony of the unit I had wanted. A leasing employee pointed toward the parking area while the other person nodded. I kept driving. That was the cost I couldn't rearrange into a favor. The unit was gone. The fee was gone. Even if my parents paid every installment on time, I had already lost something because I agreed to carry their promise. When I returned to work, there was an email from Longhorn Motors. The subject line said, "Routine funding reminder and conditional delivery documents." I opened it. The message said lender assignment remained pending. It reminded me that the dealership might contact me for final verification before 5 in the afternoon the following Monday. 3 attachments were included. The first was the retail installment summary. The second was a verification checklist. The third was a scan of the conditional delivery addendum. I had asked for a complete copy, and Michelle had sent what remained in the deal file. I opened the third attachment. The scan showed both pages of the original form. My signature appeared near the bottom of the first page. The second page looked familiar, but I hadn't read it carefully at the dealership. Austin had been asking about navigation. My father had been talking to my mother on speaker. The salesman had brought in the keys. Now I read it alone. The first section explained that Austin could take the SUV before a lender accepted the assignment. The sale remained conditional until funding. The next section described what happened if the dealership couldn't place the financing. The vehicle had to be returned. Below that was a separate section titled Buyer Cancellation Election. I read it once. Then I read it again. Before lender funding, the named buyer could elect to cancel the conditional transaction. The election had to be signed on the original addendum retained by the dealership. Once signed in time, the conditional sale ended, and the vehicle had to be returned with both keys. There was a blank signature line. I sat very still. The retail contract had made me feel trapped because it described years of payments. The addendum described the period we were in right now. The lender hadn't funded. The original form was still in Michelle's office. The blank election line was still available. I didn't call my parents. I didn't call Austin. I called Michelle. She answered after 2 rings. I received the funding reminder, I said. I have a question about the addendum. Go ahead. The buyer cancellation section. Does that apply while funding is pending? Yes, so the named buyer can cancel before the lender funds? That's what the election provides. Does the dealership have discretion to refuse it? If it's completed in time under the form, we process it. I kept my voice level. And I have to sign the original? Yes. The original remains here. What happens to the SUV? It has to be returned. Both keys, dealer items, and anything delivered with it. Does Austin have to agree? You're the named buyer. That answer landed quietly. What happens if he refuses to return it? The vehicle was conditionally delivered through your transaction. If you elect to cancel, we require its return. I would first ask everyone involved to comply with the form. She didn't threaten anyone. She didn't promise a dramatic consequence. She explained the rule. I could use it. What time is the lender deadline again? I asked. 5 p.m. Monday. Funding could occur before then if the lender completes its review. So the election only works before funding. That's correct. Can you tell me immediately if the status changes? I can place an alert on your file. Please do. I heard her typing. Done. Has the lender funded any part of it? No. The assignment remains pending. Thank you. I ended the call and closed my office door. Until that moment, I had been trying to make my family keep its promise. I wanted signatures, payment dates, and a refinance deadline. I thought victory meant forcing them to become reliable after I had already taken the risk. The addendum changed that. A better payment plan would still leave my credit attached to Austin's decisions. It would still make my apartment depend on my parents' catering income. It would still teach all 3 of them that enough pressure could turn my name into a family resource. I no longer wanted their plan improved. I wanted the arrangement ended. If you've ever reached the point where one clear word replaced 10 explanations, leave enough in the comments. I printed the scanned addendum and read it beside the retail packet. Then I drove back to Longhorn Motors after work. I didn't go inside. I parked where I could see the showroom and called Michelle from my car. I need to confirm one more thing, I said. If I come in to sign the election, will you have the original available? Yes, it's in the finance file. Could anyone take it out before funding? Not outside our normal file process. Can you note that I requested direct access to the original? There was a brief pause. I can note your request. Please don't state that I intend to sign anything. I haven't made a final decision. That was true when I said it. All right, she replied. I'll note that you asked to review the original directly. I thanked her. Through the showroom glass, I could see the display area my mother planned to use. There was enough room for food tables near the wall and a vehicle in the center. Employees moved between desks. A man polished the hood of a truck under the overhead lights. My phone buzzed. My mother had sent another family message. Friday is confirmed. Please arrive by 3:30 so Michelle can finish Alyssa's verification before guests arrive. Austin responded with a picture of the SUV parked outside the Lawson house. The red ribbon from the first night was still tied around the mirror. I saved the invitation, the message, and the picture. Then I placed the printed addendum in a plain folder and locked it in my desk at work. My family thought I was still deciding whether to cooperate with their financing plan. They didn't know I had found a way to end it. On Tuesday morning, Michelle called while I was walking from the parking lot to my office. The lender sent a verification request, she said. What do they need? Confirmation of your current employment, address, and consent to the proposed assignment. There's a short buyer statement. Does it require my signature? Yes. Can I review it first? I'll email a copy. When do they need it? As soon as possible. We still have the Monday funding deadline. I stopped outside the building. Can I complete it in person Friday? They would prefer it sooner. Is Friday still within the conditional period? Yes. Then I'll review it and handle it Friday at the dealership. She didn't argue. I'll note that you requested in-person completion. Will anything fund before I sign it? Not if the lender is requiring it as part of final verification. That was the result I needed. I wasn't refusing a legitimate request. I was choosing when and where to respond. Until then, the assignment remained incomplete. Please contact only me if they ask for anything else. That note is already on the file. Thank you. The buyer statement arrived 10 minutes later. It confirmed my employment, income, address, and acceptance of the proposed financing. The information was accurate. Signing it would remove one of the last barriers between the conditional sale and a funded loan. I printed it and placed it behind the scanned addendum. Then I made a short list on a yellow notepad. Confirm funding remains pending. Review the original addendum. Sign the cancellation election. Stay until both keys are returned. I didn't write anything about confronting my family. That wasn't the action that mattered. At lunch, I sat in my car and practiced the first sentence. Michelle, before we discuss verification, I need the original conditional delivery addendum. The first few times, I rushed the words. I tried again. Michelle, before we discuss verification, I need the original conditional delivery addendum. That was enough. If she brought out the form, I wouldn't need a speech. I also practiced answers for my parents. No, I'm not completing the verification. No, I'm not replacing this loan. No, I'm not discussing another vehicle. Each sentence felt too blunt when I said it aloud. That was probably why I needed them. My phone rang while I was still in the car. It was Austin. Did Michelle call you? Yes, she said they need a buyer statement. She emailed it to me. Did you sign? I'm reviewing it. What is there to review? My employment and consent. Your employment hasn't changed. I know, so sign it. I'm handling it directly with Michelle. He went quiet. Mom said Friday. That's what I told Michelle. Why wait? Because I want to complete it in person. You're holding up the funding on purpose. I'm reviewing a document before I sign it. You already signed everything. Apparently not. He breathed into the phone. I have another interview Thursday. Okay? I need this resolved. Then refinance a vehicle in your own name. I'm not doing this again. You called me. I called because your delay affects me. So did the purchase. He ended the call. A minute later, my mother sent a group message. Michelle says Alyssa chose Friday for the final form. Everyone please stop contacting the dealership so there is no confusion. I read it twice. It sounded cooperative, but it also announced that the delay belonged to me. My father replied, Friday is fine as long as everything is completed. Austin wrote, it should have been done today. I didn't answer. That afternoon, the apartment office sent me a list of other units. One was smaller than my current place. Another was farther from work and cost more. The third wouldn't be available for 2 months. I closed the email. The old version of me would have used that disappointment to justify cooperation. I would have thought the apartment was already gone, so there was no reason to create more conflict. Instead, losing it made the choice simpler. I wasn't signing away years because the first cost had already occurred. After work, I went to a copy shop and printed every relevant message. My mother's promise that they would pay. My father's unsigned note. Austin saying the loan was in my name. The message about final verification at the reception. Michelle's email showing funding remained pending. I didn't need those pages to cancel. The addendum was enough. I printed them because I knew my family. Afterward, they would claim the situation had been misunderstood. My parents would say I panicked. Austin would say he had been days away from refinancing. The pages wouldn't create the consequence. They would keep the story from changing. I placed everything in a plain black folder. When I got home, my mother was waiting outside my apartment. She stood beside her car with 2 covered food containers in her hands. "I brought dinner," she said. I unlocked my door. "You could have called. You might have said no. That was honest, at least." She followed me inside and put the containers on the counter. One held roasted chicken. The other held potatoes and green beans. "You've barely been answering," she said. "I've answered every question about the vehicle." "I don't want to talk about the vehicle." I looked at her. She opened a cabinet and found 2 plates without asking. For several minutes, she moved around my kitchen like she used to when I first rented the apartment. She served food, filled water glasses, and wiped a clean section of the counter. I let her. Part of me wanted the visit to be what she claimed: dinner with my mother, no forms or payment schedules. We sat at the small table. She asked about work. I told her we were closing payroll early because of a system update. She asked whether I still plan to move. Yes, even after losing that unit? When I find another one. "You could save money by staying here. I can afford to move." I didn't say you couldn't. She cut a potato into small pieces. "I always thought you liked being close to us. I'll still be in Denton." That isn't what I meant. I knew. She liked that I could reach the house in less than 15 minutes. She liked that I knew the catering alarm code and where my father kept spare van keys. She liked that my credit card was saved on vendor accounts. Closeness had become response time. "I need more space," I said. "You've always been independent." It sounded like a compliment until she added, "Austin needs more support." I set down my fork. "There it is." "What?" "The reason you came. I brought you dinner. You also came to explain why he needs more from me." She folded her napkin. "He's at a different stage. He's 28 and just starting his professional life. He made credit decisions before this. He was younger. He was an adult. People make mistakes. I know. You never needed the same help." "That isn't true." Her eyes shifted. "When did we refuse you help?" I thought about the apartment application. I thought about the business expenses I had carried. I thought about the first sedan I bought after college with no co-signer because my parents said their credit needed to stay available for the catering vans. "You didn't refuse," I said. "You reminded me what everything cost until I stopped asking." She looked genuinely hurt. "We were teaching you responsibility. What are you teaching Austin?" She stood and carried her plate to the sink. "I'm not going to sit here while you turn dinner into an attack. I asked one question. You always know how to make people feel judged." I stayed at the table. "What do you need from me Friday?" She rinsed her plate. "Show up. Sign the final form. Let your brother have one good afternoon. And after that, we make the payments. Until you know the answer." "No. I know several versions." She turned off the water. "Until Austin can refinance responsibly." That was the newest version. Promptly had become after employment. After employment became after a few paychecks. Now it was whenever my family considered refinancing responsible. I nodded once. My mother watched my face. "What are you thinking? That I heard you?" She dried her hands. "Are you signing Friday? I'll handle the paperwork with Michelle." "That's not an answer. It's the answer I have." She looked toward my work bag near the door. The edge of the black folder was visible. "What's in that?" "Documents." "About the SUV?" "Yes." She moved closer. "Can I see them?" "No." The word came out calmly. My mother stopped. "You're hiding something. I'm keeping my financial papers private." "From your own mother?" "Yes." She stared at me for several seconds. Then she picked up her purse. "I don't recognize you right now." I walked her to the door. "You recognize me. I'm saying no more often." She left the extra food on the counter but took the empty container. As soon as her car pulled away, I moved the folder from my work bag to the locked drawer in my bedroom. The next morning, I called Michelle. Will the original addendum be in your office Friday? Yes. I want to review it before the buyer statement. That's fine. Will the SUV be inside the showroom? The sales team plans to move it into the display area Friday morning. With Austin's permission? He's bringing it in for the ceremonial setup. Do you know whether he's bringing both keys? I don't. I paused. My plan worked best if both keys were already at the dealership. Does a ceremonial delivery usually include both? Usually, yes. The sales staff presents the full key set and owner materials. Can you tell my mother that both keys should be available for the presentation? Michelle was quiet for a moment. Is there a reason you don't want to ask directly? She thinks a complete key presentation matters for the pictures. She'll listen if it sounds like normal dealership procedure. I can include it in the event checklist. Thank you. That afternoon, my mother posted a picture in the family group. She had placed a small silver tray beside Austin's framed diploma. Both SUV keys rested on it, each tied with a narrow red ribbon. The dealership wants the full key set for presentation, she wrote. Austin, do not forget this Friday. Austin replied with a thumbs up. I saved the picture. My new strategy had worked twice. The funding would wait for my in-person response, and both keys were being brought to the place where the original form remained. The success was visible enough for my family to see the delay, even if they couldn't see the reason. By Wednesday evening, they had stopped asking whether I would sign. They had started telling everyone that I might refuse. My mother didn't use my name in the invitation thread. She wrote, "There may be a delay with final paperwork, but Friday's celebration is still happening." Austin followed with, "Some people get nervous when it's time to follow through." A relative asked whether the SUV had a mechanical problem. My father replied, "The vehicle is perfect." That left one possible problem. Me. By Thursday morning, I had received 4 private messages from relatives. None were openly hostile. That almost made them worse. One said, "Your parents told us you're having second thoughts. I hope you all work it out." Another said, "Austin is counting on you." A third asked whether I needed someone to explain how refinancing worked. I answered only that one. I understand the financing. The response came quickly. "Then I'm sure you'll make the right decision." My family had done something effective. They had taken a private financial dispute and described it as my fear. They didn't mention the missing plan, Austin's refusal to accept cheaper financing, or the apartment I had lost. They didn't need to lie directly. They just removed everything that made my position understandable. At work, I kept the black folder in a locked drawer. Every time my phone buzzed, I wanted to explain. I drafted 3 different messages to the family group. I deleted all of them. If I explained the addendum, my parents would pressure me to sign the buyer statement before Friday. Austin might drive straight to the dealership and demand answers. Funding was still pending, but the advantage depended on acting before that changed. I could defend my reputation now or protect my decision. I couldn't do both. At 11, my father sent me a photograph of a signed document. He and my mother had finally created the payment schedule I requested. It listed every due date for the first year. It identified their business account as the source. It promised that Austin would apply to refinance after 6 months of employment or as soon as he qualified for a lower rate. Both of my parents had signed it. A second picture showed a transfer confirmation for $742. I checked my bank account. The money was there. My father wrote, "First payment covered in advance. There is no remaining financial concern." That was their strongest answer, because it was the answer I had demanded. 3 days earlier, I would have accepted it. I might have asked for a shorter refinance period. I might have wanted automatic transfers. But I would have believed the signed schedule meant they finally understood. Now I saw what the document couldn't change. 6 months of employment could take a year to reach. A lower rate could take longer. If the catering account ran short, my credit still carried the missed payment. If Austin damaged the SUV or decided he deserved another one, my name stayed attached. They had solved the first installment. They hadn't solved the arrangement. My father called. "You received it?" "Yes." "Is everything satisfactory now?" I received the schedule and transfer. That isn't what I asked. I know. He waited. Your mother and I did exactly what you requested. You did it after telling relatives I might not follow through. We told them there could be a delay. They're messaging me because they care. They're trying to pressure me. Nobody knows the details. That's why the pressure works. He sighed. Do you want us to send them bank records? No. I want you to stop discussing my financial decisions with relatives. This is Austin's reception. People need to know whether it's happening. The reception can happen without a funded SUV. Don't be cruel. I didn't say cancel the reception. You know what the vehicle means to him. Yes. Then sign the verification tomorrow. I looked at the transfer on my screen. What did you postpone to send the first payment? Nothing. Your business account didn't have extra money Saturday. We moved things around. What things? That doesn't concern you. It came from the account you promised will make every payment. We have money arriving next week. I closed my eyes. Did you use personal money? We transferred from savings. Which savings? Alyssa, was it your household emergency fund? A pause. That was the answer. My parents had protected Austin's first payment by weakening their own backup. If something broke at the house or the business, I knew who they would call. You can't afford this, I said. We just paid it. You moved the risk. Families make sacrifices. For Austin. For both our children. How is this sacrifice for me? We are protecting your credit. You put it at risk. You agreed. There it was again. Whenever the conversation reached the beginning, they handed the decision back to me. This time, I accepted it. I did, I said. My father went quiet. I signed the paperwork. That was my mistake. So you're admitting you overreacted? No. I'm admitting I'm responsible for what I do next. What does that mean? I'll be at Longhorn Motors tomorrow, and you'll sign? I'll handle my paperwork with Michelle. His voice became harder. Your mother and I have put money behind our promise. I see that. If you refuse now, everyone will know we did our part. That was the real purpose of the transfer. It paid the first installment, but it also bought them a clean story. I ended the call without promising anything. At lunch, I transferred the full amount back. The banking app required a note. I wrote, returned. Vehicle obligation not accepted. I stared at the confirmation button for several seconds. Keeping the money would have made the cancellation look like punishment. Returning it meant I couldn't pretend I still wanted their arrangement fixed. I confirmed the transfer. My mother called before the receipt finished loading. What did you do? I returned the money. Why? Because I'm not accepting advance payments for the SUV. We sent exactly what you asked for. I asked before I understood what staying on this loan would cost. What cost? The money was in your account. The apartment is gone. We didn't make you apply for that apartment. No. You just made the application harder. Your father moved money out of our emergency savings for you. He moved it for Austin. It was to protect you. I returned it. She started speaking, stopped, then started again. Are you trying to destroy the reception? No. Are you planning to embarrass us? I'm planning to deal with my contract. What is in that folder? My paperwork. What are you going to do? I'll speak to Michelle tomorrow. If you have some complaint, handle it before the guests arrive. I didn't answer. Alyssa, I'm your mother. I know. Then tell me what you're planning. No. The words sat between us. Her voice changed. You don't get to show up at our family event with a secret plan. It's at the dealership and the financing is in my name. We arranged it. You arranged the reception. You don't control my paperwork. She breathed in slowly. Your father and I have spent our whole lives helping you. I'm not discussing my childhood as payment for a loan. You never used to talk like this. I never had to. We taught you to care about family. You taught me to solve things. And now you're using that against us. I looked at the returned transfer receipt. I'm using it for myself. She hung up. A few minutes later, Austin called. I just heard. Okay. You sent the payment back. Yes. What is wrong with you? I'm not taking money toward a vehicle I don't intend to finance. The sentence came out before I could soften it. He went silent. I had revealed more than I planned, but not how I intended to act. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means I'm not completing a loan for your SUV. You already completed it. The funding isn't final. So you're trying to make them reject it. No, what are you doing? I'll handle it with Michelle." He cursed under his breath. "You've been planning this. I've been reading what I signed. Mom said you had a folder. Mom looks through everything as if it belongs to her. You're paranoid. Bring both keys tomorrow." "No. The dealership asked for the full set, for the pictures. Then bring them for the pictures. I'm keeping the spare with me. That's fine. Bring it with you." He lowered his voice. "If you do something stupid, I'm leaving." "With the SUV?" "Yes, with my vehicle. It isn't funded. I don't care." That was useful to know. "You should care," I said. "I earned this. You completed a degree. That doesn't make every object beside it yours. Dad said they could handle the payments. Then why didn't they buy it?" He didn't answer. I heard a door close on his end. "You've always hated when they did something for me," he said. "That isn't true. You act calm, but you keep records on everybody. I started keeping records because nobody remembers promises that cost me money. You really think you're the victim in every situation. No, I think I signed something I shouldn't have signed, and now everybody else has to pay for your mistake?" I almost said yes. Instead, I said, "Bring both keys." He ended the call. That evening, I went to the Lawson house to return the emergency key my parents had given me years earlier. My mother met me at the door but didn't invite me inside. I held out the key. "What is that?" she asked. "Your house key." "Why are you returning it?" "Because you said you don't want me showing up with a secret plan. I don't need access to your house. This is childish." "No. It closes something that should have been clearer." She didn't take it at first. Behind her, I could see the silver tray on the entry table. The ribbons were there, but the keys were gone. "Where are the SUV keys?" I asked. "With Austin." "Is he bringing both tomorrow?" "He knows the dealership wants them." That wasn't my question. She finally took the house key. "If you ruin this for him, don't expect things to go back to normal." I looked at the key in her palm. "Normal is what put me on the contract." Her mouth tightened. "Then maybe you don't want this family anymore." I didn't answer immediately. That was the price she understood. Not the apartment fee, not the credit inquiry. Access, Sunday dinners, a key to the house, the right to be described as a good daughter. I had spent years paying for that right in small amounts. "I want a family that hears no," I said. "You may not get to choose the version you want. I know." She closed the door. Back at my apartment, I checked my email. The lender's status remained pending. Michelle had confirmed our appointment for 3:30 Friday. I took the black folder from the locked drawer. Then I placed my returned house key receipt, the bank transfer confirmation, and the apartment email behind the addendum scan. My parents had removed my ability to leave quietly with everyone's approval. I chose to continue without it. Friday morning, I woke before my alarm. The lender alert had arrived at 6:20. Assignment pending, buyer verification incomplete. I saved the email and printed it at work. At 8, Michelle called. "The lender followed up," she said. "They want the buyer statement today. I'll be there at 3:30. They've marked it urgent." "Does urgent change the funding deadline?" "No." "Has funding occurred?" "No." "Is the original addendum still in your file?" "Yes." "Is the cancellation election still available?" She paused before answering. "Yes." "Nothing has changed on the form." That removed the first uncertainty. I had worried the original might have been moved, stamped, or processed. In some way the scan didn't show. It hadn't. "Can I inspect it when I arrive?" "Yes." "If I sign the election before funding, what exactly happens next?" "The conditional transaction ends. We record the election and notify the lender that the assignment will not proceed." "And the scheduled installments?" "They do not become your funded loan through this sale." "What does the dealership require from Austin?" "Return of the SUV, both keys, and the delivered materials." "Immediately." "We require prompt return." If the vehicle is already here, we would secure it here. Does he have to sign anything? Not to make your election effective. Do my parents? No. Michelle stayed quiet for a moment. Then she said, Alyssa, are you asking because you intend to cancel today? I looked at my office door. I'm asking because I need to understand the form before I make an irreversible decision. That's fair. Is it irreversible? The conditional sale would be ended. If someone later wanted to purchase the vehicle, that would be a separate transaction and separate approval, not unless you chose to apply again. I won't. The certainty in my voice surprised both of us. Michelle said, Then I'll have the original available. After the call, I opened my black folder on my desk. The documents were in date order: dealership packet, payment schedule, apartment email, family messages, return transfer, addendum scan, pending funding alert. I removed my parents' bank statements. They showed the catering business was short on available cash. They also showed client names, account balances, and business expenses that had nothing to do with the cancellation. I put them through the office shredder. Then I removed the screenshots of Austin's social media pictures. I kept the odometer photo because it documented the condition and use of the SUV. I deleted the rest. The public consequence would be large enough without me displaying every unkind message or weak financial decision. I didn't need to prove my parents were bad people. I needed to prove the sale was still conditional and that I was the buyer entitled to end it. At 10, my mother sent a picture of the showroom. 2 food tables stood against one wall with white cloths and red napkins. The framed diploma was on a smaller table. Beside it sat the silver tray. Only one key was visible. I enlarged the picture. The black key rested on the tray with a ribbon tied through the ring. The second key wasn't there. I called her. Where's the spare key? Good morning to you too. Is Austin bringing it? He has it. Why isn't it on the tray? He said he wants to keep one in his pocket. The dealership asked for both. He brought both into the building. That removed the second uncertainty. Are you already there? I asked. We're setting up. Is Austin there? He's with the salesman. And the SUV? They're cleaning it. I could hear metal trays moving in the background. What time are relatives arriving? 4. I'll meet Michelle at 3:30. You could come earlier and help. I'm working. You're leaving early anyway. For the appointment. She became quiet. Alyssa, there is still time to handle whatever you're upset about privately. Did you tell the relatives I was backing out? We said there might be a paperwork issue. You made me the issue. You are the one delaying the form. I'll be there at 3:30. Will you complete it? I'll deal with the paperwork. She lowered her voice. Your father says if you refuse after we signed that payment schedule, he's done discussing it. That's his choice. He means more than the vehicle. I understand. Do you? Yes. I ended the call. At noon, Austin sent me a private message. Last chance to stop making this weird. Sign the form, eat some food, take pictures, and we move on. I replied, Do you have both keys at Longhorn Motors? He wrote, Why are you obsessed with the keys? The dealership requested them. One is on the table. One is in my pocket. Keep both there. Obviously, I saved that exchange too. Then I put my phone away and finished my work. At 3, I changed in the office restroom. I had brought a plain navy dress and low black shoes. My mother had told everyone to dress nicely for pictures. I didn't want my clothes to become another explanation. The black folder fit inside my work bag. Before I left, I opened the addendum scan one last time. The election language had 3 practical parts. Funding had to remain pending. The named buyer had to sign the original. The vehicle had to be returned. All 3 conditions could be handled inside Longhorn Motors. I reached the dealership at 3:22. The SUV was already inside the showroom. Someone had cleaned the tires and polished the windows. The large red bow sat across the hood. My father stood near the food tables arranging cups. My mother was speaking to an employee about where to place the peach cobblers. Austin wore the same suit from his networking picture. He had his graduation stole around his neck. When he saw me, he touched the pocket of his jacket. I could see the outline of the second key. My mother came toward me. "You made it." I said I would. She looked at my work bag. "Is that the folder?" "Yes." "What are you planning to show Michelle?" "The paperwork she needs to see." "Alyssa, guests will be here soon. You should finish setting up." She glanced toward the showroom entrance. 2 relatives were already walking in. "Please," she said, "just don't do anything today that you can't take back." That was exactly what I had come to do. I didn't say it. Michelle appeared near the finance hallway. "Alyssa, I'm ready for you." My father joined us. "We should get the verification done before everyone arrives. I'll meet with Michelle alone. There's no reason for that. It's my financial information. You have nothing we don't know. That doesn't make you part of the meeting." His face changed. Michelle kept her tone neutral. "The buyer verification is completed with the named buyer." My father looked at her, then at me. "We'll be right here." I followed Michelle into her office. The original conditional delivery addendum was on her desk. The buyer statement sat beside it. I placed my bag on the floor and inspected the original. It matched the scan. My first signature was there. The cancellation election remained blank. "Has the lender funded?" I asked. "No." "Can you show me the current status?" Michelle turned her monitor. The file showed the assignment as pending. The buyer verification request remained open. A timestamp showed an update from that morning. I wrote down the time. "If I sign the election now, does the reception stop?" "The sale process stops. The gathering itself is your family's event. Will you explain the rule if they argue?" "I'll explain the document and what the dealership requires. The decision is yours." That was the correct limit. She could authenticate the form. She could secure the SUV. She couldn't decide whether I was a good sister. I looked through the glass wall. More relatives had entered. My mother was greeting them. Austin stood beside the SUV while my father pointed out the interior. I could have signed then, before everyone gathered. That would have been quieter. I also could have sent the family thread every screenshot in my folder. I could have shown relatives the business balance, the unsigned promise, and Austin's refusal to take the used sedan. That would have made it easier to defend myself. It also would have turned a contract cancellation into a public inventory of every weakness my family had. I didn't want that. I wanted them to own what they were doing in the room where they chose to do it. Then I wanted the established rule to produce the consequence. "I'm not signing the buyer statement," I told Michelle. "All right, I'm going back into the showroom. Please keep the original here until I ask for it." "I can do that. If the lender status changes before then, tell me immediately." "I will." I returned to the display area. My mother handed me a plate I hadn't asked for. My father introduced me to a relative as Austin's sister, the one helping with the paperwork. Austin stayed near the SUV. Every few minutes, he reached into his jacket pocket and touched the spare key. At 4:10, most of the invited family had arrived. The showroom lights reflected off the SUV's hood. The food tables were open. People held small plates and took pictures beside the red bow. My mother tapped a spoon against a glass. The room became quieter. She thanked everyone for coming and spoke about Austin's graduation. My father said they wanted to give him something that reflected where his career was going. Neither mentioned me. I stood near Michelle's hallway with my work bag at my feet. I could still leave. I could let the buyer statement remain unsigned and wait for the lender process to fail on its own. That would delay the result and give my family more time to pressure me. It would also leave the SUV moving around Denton under my conditional transaction. Or I could use the election while every required person, object, and document was in one place. Using it would end more than the sale. My mother had already taken my house key. My father had tied future contact to my cooperation. Austin believed my refusal proved I had never supported him. I couldn't sign the election and expect Friday dinners to continue as if this were a disagreement over table rentals. My father finished speaking. Everyone applauded. Austin stepped beside the bow, smiling while my mother reached for the silver tray. I picked up my work bag and moved closer. I had accepted the cost before she lifted the first key. My mother held the key above the tray so everyone could see the red ribbon. "Austin, we are so proud of you," she said. "You worked hard for this." He stepped forward. She handed him the key, then hugged him while relatives applauded. My father joined them for pictures. Austin looked comfortable in the center of it. "Thank you," he said. "Seriously, this means everything. Mom and Dad believed in me before I had the job or the title. They knew I needed something that matched where I'm going." My mother wiped her eyes. My father put a hand on Austin's shoulder. "This isn't just a vehicle," he said. "It's an investment in his future." People applauded again. Austin held up the key. "I'll refinance when I'm established, but until then, my parents have it covered." That was the first time he had admitted the refinance might not happen quickly in front of anyone else. My father's smile tightened, but he didn't correct him. A relative asked Austin to open the driver's door for pictures. He used the key from the tray. The lights flashed. My mother waved me closer. "Alyssa, come stand with us. I'm fine here. Please don't do this." "Do what?" "Make us ask." She turned toward the small table beside the diploma. Under the silver tray was a copy of the payment schedule and the signed plan my parents had created. My mother picked them up and held them out to me. "We brought your copies. You can keep these with your records." I took the pages. The first line showed my name. The first scheduled payment was $742. My parents' signed promise sat behind it, but the dealership schedule didn't name them. It didn't name Austin as the buyer either. Michelle had stepped out of the finance hallway and was standing near the edge of the gathering. I looked at her. "Michelle, why is my name on the payment schedule?" "Let's talk in my office," she said. My mother moved between us. "Alyssa, please don't start something today." The room had become quiet enough that I could hear the dealership music playing from a ceiling speaker. "I'm not starting anything," I said. "I'm finishing the conditional transaction." Austin shut the driver's door. "What does that mean?" I didn't answer him. I looked at Michelle. "I need the original conditional delivery addendum." She nodded once. "I'll get it." My father stepped forward. "Hold on. We completed a payment plan. I received it. We transferred the first payment. I returned it." A few relatives looked at my mother. She spoke quickly. "We moved money from our savings because Alyssa wanted proof." "That isn't why I returned it," I said. Austin came around the front of the SUV. "What are you trying to do?" "I'm ending my part of this." "You can't. You already signed." "I signed a conditional sale." My father lowered his voice. "Not here. This is where the original form is. You could have handled this privately. I tried to discuss it privately for more than a week." My mother looked around the showroom. "This is his graduation reception." "I know. You let us invite everybody. You invited everybody after I asked you to wait." Austin pointed toward my work bag. "You've had this planned. I read the paperwork after the dealership sent it to me. Then sign the verification and stop making this a performance. I'm not signing the buyer statement." His face changed. "What?" "The lender hasn't funded the sale." My father looked toward Michelle's office. "They will once you complete verification." "I'm not completing it." My mother reached for my arm. I stepped back before she touched me. "We gave you everything you asked for," she said. "You gave it after you learned I might refuse. What difference does that make if it's signed? It doesn't remove my name. We can't remove your name until Austin qualifies. Then he can't afford this SUV." Austin laughed, but there was no humor in it. "There it is. You wanted to say that in front of everyone." "No, I wanted you to choose something you could finance yourself. That old sedan? Yes. You expect me to pull up to interviews in that? I expect you to pay for the image you want." My father moved closer. "That's enough." I looked at him. "Yes." Michelle returned carrying the pale blue dealership folder. Everyone watched her place it on a small round table near the finance hallway. She opened the folder and removed the original addendum. My signature was visible at the bottom of the first page. She turned to the second page. The cancellation election was blank. My mother stared at it. "What is that?" I didn't explain. I asked Michelle, "Is funding still pending?" "Yes. What time did you confirm?" 3:48 this afternoon. "I checked again when you arrived. Has anything changed since then?" "No. The buyer verification remains incomplete." My father looked at me. "What are you doing, Alyssa?" I took a pen from my folder. The addendum says the named buyer can cancel before lender funding. Austin stepped toward the table. "Give me that." Michelle placed one hand on the dealership folder. "This is the original deal document. Please don't touch it." He stopped. My mother looked at Michelle. "Can she actually cancel it?" "The election is part of the form signed at conditional delivery, but we agreed to pay. That agreement is between you and Alyssa. It doesn't change the buyer election on this form." My father shook his head. "We put money aside." Michelle kept her tone even. "I'm only explaining the dealership document." My mother turned to me. "If you sign that, you're doing it to punish us. I'm doing it because none of you can take my name off this vehicle. Austin was going to refinance. When? He needs time. How much? You know we can't give an exact date. That's why I'm not accepting the obligation." My father said, "We will make every payment. You said the same thing before Mom told me I would cover any timing gap. That was a misunderstanding." "No, it was the plan." My mother's face reddened. "You always have money for yourself." I looked at her. "That's not a reason to spend it." A relative near the food table set down a paper plate. Nobody else was eating. Austin stood beside the SUV with the ribboned key in his hand. "You signed because you knew this mattered to me," he said. "I signed because I thought all three of you meant what you promised. We did. You told me you would refinance promptly. Then Dad advised you to wait. You told me there wasn't another option. Then you admitted the dealership offered a used sedan. That wasn't comparable. It was available to you without me." My father glanced at the relatives. "This is a private conversation." Austin had already accepted the gift publicly. My parents had already claimed it publicly. Now privacy mattered because the details didn't support their version. I placed the pen on the form. My mother said, "If you do this, you can't undo what it does to this family." "I know." "Then step away from the table." I looked at the election line. The language was simple. I wasn't transferring the SUV to someone else. I wasn't demanding money. I was ending the unfunded transaction attached to my name. I signed Alyssa Lawson, then I wrote the date. Michelle checked the time and added it beside my signature according to dealership procedure. She initialed the election and took the original back into her hands. "The buyer cancellation election is timely," she said. "The lender assignment has not funded. Longhorn Motors is canceling this conditional sale." Nobody spoke. Michelle continued. "The SUV must remain at the dealership. We need both keys returned now." Austin looked at me. "You're serious?" I closed my pen. "Yes." My mother stepped toward Michelle. "Can we reverse it? The election has been completed. What if Alyssa signs the other form? The conditional sale has been canceled. Any future purchase would require a new transaction." "Then start a new transaction," my father said. Michelle looked at him. "Who would be applying?" He didn't answer. My mother said, "We can use the same information." "No," I said. She turned toward me. "You don't even know what she's going to say." "I'm not applying again." Austin tightened his hand around the ribboned key. "I'm leaving." Michelle didn't raise her voice. "The SUV cannot leave. You gave it to me. It was conditionally delivered under the transaction Alyssa just canceled. I've been driving it all week. That doesn't change the form." He looked toward the showroom doors. A dealership employee had moved a display stand closer to the exit during the reception setup. The SUV was inside between two other vehicles. He couldn't simply drive straight out without dealership staff moving things. My father approached him. "Give her the keys." "No. Austin, this is my graduation gift." My mother stood beside him. "We'll work something out." "With whose credit?" I asked. She looked at me but didn't answer. Austin pulled the second key from his jacket pocket. He held one in each hand. For a moment, I thought he might put them back in his pocket and walk away. Michelle held out her hand. "We need both keys." He looked around the showroom. The relatives who had congratulated him were watching. The framed diploma remained on the side table. The food my mother prepared sat untouched behind him. His confidence disappeared in small pieces. First, he untied the ribbon from the key my mother had presented. Then he placed that key on the silver tray. He set the spare beside it. Michelle picked up both and checked the tags. "Thank you." Austin turned to my father. "You said this was handled." My father looked at me instead. "She made a choice." "Yes," I said, "I did." My mother took the payment schedule from my hand. She held it as if it could still make the vehicle theirs. "This says the payments are scheduled." "Under the sale that was just canceled," Michelle said. "They won't become funded installments through this transaction." My mother looked down at my name. Then she finally seemed to understand what the paper had meant from the beginning. The payment schedule had gone to me because the SUV had never been their gift to finance. It had been mine. Michelle carried the original addendum and both keys into her office. She returned with a stamped copy of the cancellation election and handed it to me. "Keep this with your records." I placed it in the black folder. A dealership employee removed the red bow from the hood so the SUV could be returned to inventory. Austin watched the bow fold in on itself as the employee carried it away. My father started gathering cups from the food table. My mother picked up the silver tray, now empty. The relatives moved aside when dealership staff rolled a barrier in front of the SUV. It remained under the showroom lights, polished and locked, with neither key in Austin's hands. Nobody knew what to say after that. My mother began putting lids on the food trays. My father folded the tablecloth from the dessert table while relatives stood nearby holding half-finished plates. Austin walked toward the showroom doors. My father called after him. "Where are you going?" "Home." "You don't have a ride." "I'll get one." My mother went after him. "Austin, wait." He kept walking. One of our relatives stepped close to me. "I thought your parents bought the SUV," she said quietly. "So did Austin." She looked at the folder in my hand. "Was the loan really yours?" "Yes." "And they couldn't get it themselves?" "No." Her face changed. "I didn't understand that when I messaged you." "I know, I'm sorry." It didn't fix anything, but it was the first person in the room who adjusted her opinion when the facts changed. She helped my father carry food to the catering van. Other relatives left in small groups. A few hugged my mother. One shook my father's hand and said nothing. Nobody asked me to explain the form again. They had heard Michelle confirm it. My mother returned from outside without Austin. "He left," she said. "I saw. You humiliated him. He accepted a vehicle in front of everyone before it was funded. You waited until he did." "Yes." She stared at me. I didn't deny the timing. If I had signed before the reception, she would have told everyone I destroyed a gift my parents were prepared to provide. I let the room see who claimed the SUV and who received the payment schedule. My father closed the catering van doors. "Can this be corrected Monday?" he asked. "No, I'm asking Michelle." She already answered. "I want to hear every option." Michelle was standing near the finance hallway with the dealership folder in her hands. My father walked over to her. "If Deborah and I apply together, can we keep the same vehicle?" "You may submit an application for any available vehicle," she said. "It would be evaluated as a new transaction." "With the same terms?" "I can't promise terms before an application is reviewed." "What about Austin?" "He may apply based on his own credit and income." My father's shoulders dropped slightly. "What if Alyssa changes her mind?" "I won't," I said. He looked back at me. "What if she does?" Michelle answered him. "She would need to choose to enter a new transaction. The canceled sale won't simply reopen." My mother came to stand beside him. "Alyssa, apply again. We'll sign the payment schedule first." "No." "We already signed it, I know." "Then tell us what else you want." "Nothing. I'm not financing another vehicle. Not even something cheaper? No replacement arrangements." Austin had called my mother by then. Her phone kept buzzing in her hand. She ignored it. My father said, "You've made your point. This wasn't a demonstration. You got what you wanted. I ended a transaction I shouldn't have signed. And what do we do now?" The question was so familiar that I almost answered it. I could have called Austin. I could have found the used sedan he rejected. I could have asked Michelle what financing might be available to my parents. Instead, I said, "You decide." My mother looked offended. "You don't care how he gets to interviews? He can use Dad's pickup. That leaves your father without a vehicle. You have the catering van. We need that for work. Then Austin can drive Dad when their schedules overlap. That is completely impractical. It's more practical than putting the wrong buyer on a luxury SUV." My father rubbed his forehead. "We'll handle it." "Okay." He seemed surprised that I agreed. I said goodbye to Michelle and thanked her for providing the retained form. She handed me a second copy of the cancellation record and told me the electronic confirmation would arrive by Monday. Then I left. My sedan was parked near the far end of the lot. It was 5 years old, exactly like the vehicle Austin had considered beneath him. It started on the first try. I drove to my apartment alone. My mother called before I got there. I let it go to voicemail. Her message lasted almost 3 minutes. She said I had ruined a day she spent weeks planning. She said Austin might lose professional opportunities because he no longer had the right vehicle. She said my father had moved money from savings to reassure me, and I had thrown it back at them. At the end, she said, "I hope proving you were right was worth what you did to your brother." She never mentioned what they had done to me. My father left a shorter message. "We need space. Don't come to the house this weekend." I had already returned the key. Austin didn't call. On Monday morning, Longhorn Motors emailed the cancellation confirmation. The file showed no funded lender assignment and no installment account opened from the transaction. The credit inquiry remained. I sent the confirmation to the apartment office. They updated my application, but the unit I wanted had already been leased. They could keep me approved for another opening. That was all they could restore. The inquiry would age. Another apartment would become available, but I couldn't get back the exact unit or the week I spent wondering whether my family would make payments. At lunch, I checked my bank accounts. No money had left for catering supplies, family utilities, or Austin. My parents no longer had saved access to my cards. The $742 had been returned. For the first time in years, there was no family expense waiting to become mine. That didn't feel peaceful yet. It felt empty. 3 days after the reception, my mother sent a message. "The catering van needs new tires. Since you removed your card from the supplier account, we had to use the money set aside for repainting the house." I read it carefully. She hadn't asked me for money. She wanted me to understand the consequence. I replied, "The business needs safe tires." She answered, "That isn't the point." I didn't continue. The next week, my father called. "Austin has an interview in Fort Worth tomorrow." "Okay, he needs the pickup." "Then let him use it. I have an early catering delivery. Can Mom drive the van while you use her car? We've discussed that. And that's what we'll do." There was a pause. He had called expecting me to offer my sedan. I knew it, and he knew I knew it. I didn't offer. My mother would drive the catering van. My father would use her car. Austin would take the aging pickup. The family had 3 drivers and 3 working vehicles. Their solution required scheduling, not my credit. My father cleared his throat. "Your mother says you haven't responded about Sunday dinner. I wasn't invited. You always come on the first Sunday of the month. You told me not to come to the house. I said we needed space last weekend. Has anything changed?" He didn't answer. "Have you and Mom stopped blaming me for the cancellation? We think you handled it badly." "Then I'm not coming to dinner. How long are you going to keep this up?" "I'm not keeping anything up. I'm waiting for a reason to believe the same pattern won't restart. You canceled the sale. What more do you want?" "That question is why I'm not coming." He ended the call without saying goodbye. Austin used the pickup for his interview. I knew because he posted a picture from inside it. The faded catering sign was visible through the passenger window. There was no caption about the next chapter. He stopped posting for several days after that. My mother continued sending group messages about catering events and family dinners. She never addressed me directly. My father called twice when business schedules became difficult, but he stopped short of asking for money. They managed. They postponed repainting the house. They delayed replacing a refrigerator in the catering garage that still worked but made too much noise. They combined trips and used whichever vehicle was available. None of it was comfortable. None of it was impossible. Austin was the one who adjusted least gracefully. The first time I spoke to him after the reception, he called from my father's pickup. "You happy?" he asked. "With what?" "This. I can hear the truck. The air conditioner barely works. It works after a few minutes. I'm wearing a suit. Open the vents." He didn't respond. "How did the interview go?" I asked. "Fine. Did they object to the truck?" "That isn't the point. Did they?" "No." I waited. He said, "The interviewer didn't see me arrive, so the SUV wouldn't have affected the meeting. You don't understand how any of this works. I understand the loan. Of course you do." He ended the call. I didn't hear from him again for nearly 3 weeks. During that time, another apartment became available in the same building. It didn't have the balcony I wanted, but it had the second room and covered parking. I signed the lease. My parents found out through the family group after my mother asked whether I was coming to dinner, and I said I was packing. She replied, "I didn't know you found another place." I wrote, "I did." She didn't offer to help. I didn't ask. The night before my move, Austin sent me a message. It contained a link to a used sedan at a dealership outside Denton. It was modest, several years old, and priced within a range he might actually manage. Under the link, he wrote, "Can you tell me if this payment estimate looks real?" I looked at the message for a long time. He hadn't asked me to apply. He hadn't asked me for a down payment. I replied, "Send me the interest rate, term, and total amount. I'll explain the estimate, but I won't sign or pay." A few minutes later, he sent the information. Then he wrote, "Understood." I reviewed the estimate that evening. The advertised payment assumed a large down payment and a shorter loan term than Austin expected. When I used the amount he could actually put down, the payment increased. I sent him the corrected calculation. He called 10 minutes later. "That's almost 100 more than the website says. The website is using different terms. Can I ask them to lower the price?" "Yes." "Will that lower the payment enough?" "Depends on the rate and term." He was quiet. "What would you do?" he asked. "I'd keep looking." "That's it?" "You don't need my permission to buy it. I'm asking if it's a bad deal. It's more than you can comfortably pay until you have steady income." He didn't argue. "Okay," he said. "I'll keep looking." That was the first test. A month earlier, Austin would have told me the payment had to work because he wanted the car. This time, he closed the listing. He helped me move the next morning. He arrived in our father's pickup wearing an old t-shirt and carried boxes up the stairs without complaining. My new apartment was on the second floor. By the fourth trip, both of us were sweating. He set a box of kitchen dishes on the counter. "The covered parking is nice," he said. "It is." "Better than the other place?" "The other place had a balcony." He nodded. "Sorry you lost it." I waited to see whether he would add an excuse. He didn't. We carried the rest of the boxes in silence. Before leaving, he handed me the pickup key. "I'm going to return this to Dad." "Okay. Thanks for looking at the estimate." "You're welcome." He didn't ask me to find another car for him. That mattered. For the next 2 months, we spoke occasionally. He sent me listings. I explained terms when he asked. If he sent only a monthly payment, I told him to get the total price and interest rate. He did. When a dealer suggested a longer loan to make one vehicle look cheaper, Austin left without buying it. He called from the parking lot. The payment sounded good, but I'd be paying forever. Pretty much. "I hate that you were right. I didn't create the numbers." "I know. That was the second test." He wasn't suddenly careful in every part of his life. He still bought expensive lunches after interviews. He still complained about the pickup. But he stopped treating financing like a problem someone else should absorb. My parents changed more slowly. My mother didn't visit my new apartment for the first 6 weeks. She sent messages about family meals, but they sounded like announcements. Dinner, Sunday at 6. I replied, "I'm not available." She wrote, "You're always busy now." I didn't explain. My father called when the noisy refrigerator in the catering garage finally stopped cooling. I expected the usual pause where I offered money. Instead, he said, "We rented a smaller unit for the weekend and used the repair fund Monday. Did you lose any food?" "No. We caught it early." "Good." He waited. "We handled it," he said. "I heard you. I thought you'd want to know." "I do." That was all. They had postponed repainting the house and delayed replacing some catering equipment. My mother complained about both in the family group. Nobody rescued them. The business kept operating. My father stopped calling every scheduling problem an emergency. My mother stopped sending me pictures of bills. Neither had apologized. 3 months after the showroom reception, Austin started a full-time job. It wasn't the kind of position he had imagined when he posed beside the SUV. He worked in an operations office and wore business casual clothes most days. The company had a normal parking lot filled with normal cars. He kept using the pickup while saving for a down payment. Then he found a used sedan in Denton. It was several years old, dark blue, and had a small scratch near the rear wheel. He sent me the listing. "The total price looks reasonable," I said. "Check the inspection and insurance cost." He did both. A week later, he called. "I bought it. Did you finance it?" "Yes." "In your name?" "In my name." "Can you afford the payment?" "Yes." He said it without defensiveness. "Congratulations." "Thanks." He drove the sedan to my apartment that evening. There was no bow. He showed me the paperwork at my kitchen table. His name appeared as the buyer. The down payment came from his savings. The payment fit within his income. I handed the packet back. "It looks right." He put it into an envelope, then he stayed seated. "I owe you an apology," he said. I waited. I acted like the SUV was mine because Mom and Dad called it a gift. I didn't care that your name was on everything. "That's true. I thought you'd handle it if they couldn't." "That's also true." He looked down at the envelope. "I told myself it was different because you had better credit. It wasn't different. It was easier for me." I didn't help him finish. He continued, "When you canceled it, I thought you wanted to embarrass me. I still wish it hadn't happened in front of everyone. I understand. But I claimed it in front of everyone too." "Yes." He looked at me. "I'm sorry." "Thank you." He didn't ask whether I forgave him. He didn't ask for money. He didn't tell me the apology should erase anything. That was the third test. I told him we could have dinner sometimes. I wasn't ready to give him access to my financial life or return to daily family contact. He accepted that. My parents saw his sedan when he drove it to the Lawson house. My father checked the tires and told him the scratch could be repaired later. My mother said the vehicle was too small. Austin kept it anyway. A few weeks later, my parents asked me to meet them for coffee. My mother arrived carrying a folder. For a second, I thought she had brought another bill. She set it on the table but didn't open it. "It's the new emergency budget for the house and business," she said. "Your father wanted you to know we made one. I don't need to see it." Her face tightened, then relaxed. "All right." My father stirred his coffee. "We shouldn't have asked you to sign for Austin." "No. We thought we could manage the payments." "You might have." He looked surprised. "That wasn't the only problem," I said. "You treated my credit as something the family could assign." He nodded slowly. "We did." My mother looked at the folder. "We thought because you were able to help, it was reasonable to ask. You didn't just ask. You promised him the SUV before I agreed." She pressed her lips together. "Yes. You invited people before the financing was final. Yes. You tried to make refusing more embarrassing than signing." She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "I did." That was the first complete answer she had given me. My father said, "We're sorry." I looked at my mother. She met my eyes. "I'm sorry too," she said, "not just for the reception, for treating your money like it was available whenever ours wasn't." I thanked them for saying it. Then my mother asked, "Does this mean we can go back to normal?" "No." Her face changed. "What does it mean?" "It means we can see whether things stay different." We apologized. "I know. What else do you want?" I want you to manage the business without my cards. I want you to solve transportation without my credit. I want an invitation to be an invitation, not an assignment." My father nodded. My mother looked disappointed, but she didn't argue. They paid for their own coffee. Over the next 2 months, I tested them in ordinary situations. My father asked whether I could review a catering spreadsheet. I said I could look at the totals, but I wouldn't pay any shortage. He sent it anyway and accepted the correction without asking for money. My mother invited me to dinner. When I declined, she said, "Maybe next time." She didn't ask what I was doing. She didn't remind me what family meant. The next invitation came without a task attached. I accepted that one. At the house, Austin's used sedan was parked beside the brick wall. My father's pickup was back in its usual place. The catering van had new tires. My mother served dinner without mentioning the showroom. My father asked about my apartment and listened when I described the second room. Austin talked about work. He complained about an early meeting, then admitted his manager had trusted him with a difficult account. Nobody asked me to fix anything. After dinner, my mother offered me a container of leftovers. I took one. She didn't put an invoice, bill, or vendor receipt on top of it. I had spent years believing that being the person everyone needed was how I kept my place in the family. It took losing access to understand that a place you must finance is not belonging. If you want to hear more stories like mine, please subscribe and tell me which city you're watching from. When I stood to leave, my father walked me to the front door. "You coming next Sunday?" he asked. "I'll let you know, all right?" He didn't push. Austin followed me outside because he had left his phone charger in his sedan. He unlocked it with his own key and leaned across the passenger seat. "Drive safe," he said. "You too." My mother waved from the doorway. She didn't ask when I would come back. I got into my car and started the engine. Austin closed his sedan and walked toward the house. My father moved the catering van key from one pocket to the other while checking tomorrow's delivery list. Nobody came to my window with a last request. I backed onto the street, shifted into drive, and looked once in the mirror. My sedan left the Lawson driveway while Austin's modest used sedan remained beside the house.